Resident Evil Requiem, an incredible return to form after the personal disappointment of 7 and 8. Requiem has raised the bar of what the series should be going forward, blending both classic and modern gameplay styles into a well-paced, puzzle-friendly and grotesque adventure that showcases not only two sides of the nightmare, but also the past and present of the pharmaceutical company that started it all, Umbrella. The game is split between two protagonists, series veteran, the backflipping, wisecracking, all-around badass action hero LeonSKennedy working for the DSO, and newcomer Grace Ashcroft, a forensic investigator from the FBI tasked with looking into a series of grisly murders that bear striking similarities to the Raccoon City incident 28 years before. Having lost her mother Alyssa more recently under similar circumstances, Grace, a timid, inexperienced and eager to please young lady, is immediately pulled into a nightmare in which she must quickly steel herself against to survive. Resident Evil personally has always been about the characters and their interactions with each other. No matter how trivial they may seem, over the years they created a cast I've come to care for, with each one standing alone as a testament to overcoming adversity and making their lives more than what they experience. Even the villains and anti-heroes, with their modest screen time in comparison to the protagonists, have become fan favourites, and rightly so. It's why in the past I was so against the change to a first-person perspective for both 7 and 8. Even if all I saw was the back of their head, my desire to protect these characters felt stronger than if I was self-inserting through the first person for the sake of being a little bit scarier. I'm surprised to say that Requiem has changed that opinion. It turns out that it was just Ethan that I didn't like. As the default perspective for playing as Grace, and one that is forced upon during some cutscenes, I think first person is the better choice for the horror-centric tone of her sections. Feeling reminiscent of the mansion incident in the original game, you will systematically open doors and solve puzzles whilst clearing or sneaking past passages of infected and managing your inventory. That being said, despite nailing the horror and threat in the early game, it doesn't maintain it for long. Like most horror games, once you begin to stock up with weaponry and items, the fear of the unknown is gone and nothing else hits the same. In fact, one monster with its semi-sentient babble made me laugh. Nevertheless, I really enjoyed seeing Grace develop from a stuttering and unconfident lady into a reluctant but conscionable hero as she takes on the protective role for Emily, a young experimental subject at the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Centre whose treatments have left her blind. Grace is very much the heart of the game, and the narrative parallels between her relationship with Alyssa and Emily struck a chord. I do think the blood collector was a bit of a weird choice though. Throughout the game you'll find puddles or literal bathtubs full of infected blood that can be collected and combined with various materials to make ammo, medicine and other items to enhance your health and shooting ability, bringing back the staple resource management that makes you strategize how best to use your limited items to maximum effect. I'm just not sure it makes a whole lot of sense, even for a Resident Evil, but we just have to pardon some things when it comes to this series. Like the fact that Alyssa's journal has been hidden behind a portrait for years after being the location of a multiple homicide investigation. Also, why no more red and blue herbs? Switching to Leon, I'll start by saying it's never a bad thing to be able to play as him, even if our boy is getting old. Armed with his ever-expandable attaché case of weaponry and a brand new hatchet used for parries, stylish finishes and stealthy takedowns, I was having a blast. But it was over too soon. I found myself saying, was that it? When sections were done, and that's when the tables turned. What starts out as very enjoyable, bite-sized and action-packed sequences became a little long and tedious, if only in my first playthrough. After that, it was a joyride. It's funny how the things you dislike in the first run can become the things you love later on, especially when it comes to Resident Evil. It feels almost criminal to say that when we finally get to return to the ruins of Raccoon City, despite its nostalgia and references to Resident Evil 2, is where the game lost traction for me. Switching to a more pseudo-open world area filled with optional paths, arcade-style reward systems and weapon upgrades felt a little jarring and gave me decision paralysis for fear of missing something. This is without mentioning the narrative question mark of a 28-year-old missile-struck ruins is somehow still full of infected. Oh well. Sometimes you just have to let a game be a game. The action is ridiculously fun though, and felt similar to the things that I loved about 4, right down to my OCD-fueled habits of organising and reorganising the attaché case. It's hard to get bored of popping zombie heads after all. The thing I realised whilst writing this is that a game that blends two distinct styles of gameplay, even though both are fantastic, means that one side will always be more favourable. I'm sad that I enjoyed Grace's more. I might have thought differently if the gameplay split was more balanced rather than being mostly Grace in the first half and vice versa for Leon in the second. There is one section that, while it feels right to include for the sake of the story, it does also strip the game of its brilliant pacing up until that point. The part I'm talking about is of course playing as Chloe during her attempted escape from the Raccoon City orphanage. Much like Leon's early sections, it is short, but feels longer due to being unarmed and having to trigger scripted points just to go back into hiding and wait out the patrolling child clones before moving on again. I understand why they made it playable with the optional lore files scattered about, but I can't help but feel it would have been nicer as a lengthier cutscene instead of stripping the game back down to basics. As I touched upon earlier, thanks to the fans and community spirit around the series, Resident Evil prides itself on replayability and speedruns. Requiem is no different. Once you learn the where and when of each area, picking up items in as little circuits as possible, the game becomes somehow more fun to replay. The subsequent playthroughs when returning to Raccoon City felt less like decision paralysis and more like a breeze through zombie-infested streets with my best pal Mr. Kennedy as intended. This is without mentioning the multiple challenge runs like no heals, finishing the game in under 4 hours and on higher difficulties offer points to unlock special weapons and gameplay modifiers to keep the game feeling fresh. Like there's more to see even after your first playthrough. I won't mention the difficulty of finding collectibles considering the amount of playthroughs necessary to 100% the game, as between the unlockable map markers and milestones, you should be able to breeze through without a guide. Albeit for one cheeky little raccoon memoriam figure. And just when I thought I was having too much fun, playing on Insanity felt even better. Flipping that game knowledge on its head, enemy patterns change, item spawns move, and new exclusive items make you think harder about what passages and hallways must be tackled first, or at all. Unless you play with infinite ammo on, and then you can just blitz through everything for the Platinum or 1000 gamer score. It felt like playing a whole new game again, and I had the best time. Requiem, with its return to Raccoon City and the series' origins, whilst very much appreciated, has unfortunately opened itself up to certain retcons, like Oswell E. Spencer's motivations compared to his depictions in Resident Evil 5. With all the whispers going around, I'm hoping this could mean a remake in the future to loop it all back into a narratively cohesive lore, but considering the controversial complications, I won't hold my breath. Overall, the game is fantastic, and despite some plot holes and decisions to retcon some lore, it holds up as one of the best games in the series, and while I still think I'd sooner replay the Resident Evil 4 remake again, it's one I'd very much recommend and will be keeping my eye on for DLCs.